Hey guys, what's up? So I've had a lot of people ask about my healing UI, and so I'm just gonna make a little bit of a video about like healing and UIs and how important UI is for healing. The number one thing that most healers can do to improve their gameplay is just to improve their user interface, in my opinion. It's like super important how good your raid frames are, and like how good your keybinds and like click casting, mouse over, all that stuff is very important. If you're healing with the default UI with like no mouse over macros, no click casting, any of that stuff, you're probably gonna have a bad time. Even if you're like, you can be good at the game, and if you have a bad UI as a healer, it's gonna feel super bad. So what I use is Grid2. I would recommend using either Grid or VuhDo. I would not recommend using anything else. I think Cell raid frames are like kind of good, but I haven't really used them. I've just heard good things from other people. But what you want from a raid frame is for it to be configurable in terms of buffs, debuffs, pots, stuff like that. Grid2 and VuhDo are both like super configurable in this way. You can also make it look nice. My grid profile, I'm going to put it in the description. It is in Wrath, I saw there's a guy called Holy Palaceway who he heals for like, he's super good. He's been playing the game for like decades or whatever, and he's like high tier progression rater for a lot of that. He has a YouTube channel. He like makes videos of speed runs and stuff now. Pretty cool guy. He was in like the world first tier 11 clear. Watched one of his videos in Wrath, and I just saw his grid profile looked really nice, so I went and copied it. He had it on his Discord in Wrath. I don't know if he still has it on his Discord now, but that's like the visuals for my raid frames. And then I just customized the indicators and stuff for Discipline Priest, and I did it for like each raid and stuff like that. So I'm going to post this profile. Just when you import it, if you do want to copy it, just make sure to click include custom layout before you import it, or else some of the stuff will be messed up. So that's Grid2. The most important thing, if you want to configure your own raid frame, is just to have like your important buffs and debuffs tracked. So for Discipline Priest, that's going to be Weakened Soul and Power Word Shield. I have Power Word Shield in the center and Weak Soul over here. I also have these counters. This is probably a bit overkill, but I don't know. I just got used to having it this way. So you want to have your major HOTS tracked. So for Priest, I have Renew tracked. You want to have raid debuffs, dispellable stuff like that tracked. For that, I use Grid, but I also use the like Foji's raid pack. This is like super nice to have. I would just recommend getting this one way or the other. I'm not going to tell you how to get it, or, obviously everyone who has this pays for it because it is paid. So, get this somehow. It's really, really nice. There's updates to it regularly, and it's going to do like a lot of stuff for you. If you don't have that, you could do pretty much everything with DBM and with Grid or VuhDo if you just configure it to track all the right debuffs, but Foji's kind of does it all for you. So that's raid frames. Very important to have all the information you need visible, and information you do not need not visible. So for casting, this is like the other important thing for raid frames. I use MOUSEOVERs for everything. So it's like for Power Word Shield, I just use a /cast MOUSEOVER, help exists nodead, and then I do these brackets Power Word Shield. So what this does is if you have a MOUSEOVER that's a friendly that it exists and it isn't dead, it will cast Power Word Shield on them. Otherwise, it will just cast Power Word Shield normally. So if you have a target, it will prioritize that. Otherwise, it will cast it on yourself. I pretty much have like all the spells like this. You can do this with Clique, but I prefer to just have them in macros like this. This is what I'm used to. I do sometimes actually like target things and stuff like that. I'll put one of these macros in the description. You can literally just like take away Power Word Shield and put in whatever spell you want here and use that. Or you can use, VuhDo has click casting built into it. So you can use that to like bind, like right click instead of bringing up a menu, it will cast. You can even bind left click to something other than target. You can bind like your mouse buttons, your middle mouse button, stuff like that to cast certain spells on your raid frames. That's like really useful. Usually what I'll do on non-priest healers, on priest I just got used to using MOUSEOVERs for everything, but like when I'm playing Resto Shaman, I have Chain Heal bound to right click. When I'm playing HPAL, I have Radiance bound to right click. So I just, click wherever I want to cast that. Kind of useful. I also have like lay on hands bound to middle mouse button because it's nice to be able to really quickly like lay on hands without having to like press a bind. You just press middle mouse button. That's click casting. You should never, ever, ever in a million years as a healer be casting your heals by like clicking to target on your raid frame and then pressing a button. That's like super terrible. If you do that, that's like keyboard turning or something. Do not do that. It just doubles the amount of actions you have to do to heal somebody. And it's annoying. I also, a couple other macros while we're looking at macros that I have for discipline. I have a MOUSEOVER PI, and then I also have a PI like at a particular person. Can be nice if you are always PIing the same person. I also have a POM on the tank, so I have 2 here because we have two different tanks. So this can be nice. I have this on shift 1, I think. So if you ever have to move and you should be turning with your mouse and stuff like that. It's nice not to have to always like aim POM onto the tank. If you are moving and you just want to use your instance, you can just chuck a POM into the tank without having to aim it, which is nice. Also for Holy Fire and Smite, this is something that's really useful for discipline specifically. I have like a target harm exists and then brackets Holy Fire. What this will do is it will, if you're targeting like the tank or anybody in your raid, it will check if their target is an enemy, and if it is an enemy, it will cast Holy Fire on them. Otherwise, it will just cast Holy Fire on normally. So no matter who you're targeting, as long as you're in a raid and everybody's killing the boss, you can be targeting the boss, you can be targeting the tank, you can be targeting somebody else, doesn't matter. It will just always cast Holy Fire on the boss, and it's the same thing with Smite. You can also use a similar macro like this for, which I do for like Holy Paladin, because Holy Paladin, you're usually going to be targeting the boss because you're going to be meleeing the boss and Crusader striking the boss. You can use one of these that's target help and then brackets Holy Shock. And what that will do, you can also like put a MOUSEOVER in there. I think it might, do I have it in? No, I don't have it on here. I'll put it in the description anyways though, which will like, if you're targeting the boss, it will just always Holy Shock the target that the boss has, which is the tank, unless you're mousing over, in which case it will Holy Shock your MOUSEOVER, which is like super nice. You don't have to always aim your Holy Shock. So you can use target macros like this for offensive abilities if you want to, just to not have to shift your target around too much. So that's macros. For my like unit frames, I just use Elvui. I'm going to put my Elvui profile in the description as well. But it doesn't really matter what you use here, as long as you have like your health bar and your target health bar, and this is my focus health bar and target of target. Just have like this information somewhere on your screen that's central. You can also, like, some WeakAuras have the health bar inside. I have my mana bar in my WeakAura, so not too big a deal. As long as you just have that information somewhere central. Your health bar shouldn't be like insanely huge. You don't need them to be. So anyways, for my major abilities, I just use, I got used to the Foji class pack I got used to this class pack in Wrath of the Lich King. I like it. I like the way it looks. So basically I just went through this and changed some of the spell IDs because a lot of the spell IDs were broken and just like disabled and messed with some stuff. So I use this, and then I have a couple of extra stuff here, which is like life grip barrier if inner fire is missing, Holy Fire cooldown, evangelism stack, stuff like that. I'll link these two WeakAuras in the description as well. But honestly, like, this is not that, you can use any class. You can use like the Luxthos one. I'm sure there's a million of them on WeakAuras. They're fine. Doesn't really matter which WeakAura you use, as long as it tracks your major cooldowns and it's somewhere central in your screen and it's not like too big and too bulky or whatever. But this is what I use, so I'll put those again in the description. Yeah, like the most important thing as a healer is just your raid frames are nice, and that you are casting either with click casting or with MOUSEOVERs most of the time, and that you're not routinely like clicking on somebody to target them and then pressing a button to heal. You want to have the least delay between your brain recognizing that somebody needs to be healed and you being able to heal them as possible, and having to click on them and then click a heal is not great for that, obviously. So that's my UI for nameplates. I use Plater. This is like, it doesn't really matter as a healer. You don't really need, you could turn your nameplates off and it wouldn't really matter too much. But you can use I would recommend using Plater. There's a bunch of plater profiles on WeakAuras. My plater profile isn't like special in any way. It's not that pretty in my opinion, so just, you know, you can use the default one and it's totally fine. For raid stuff, you can use DBM if you want to use DBM. It's actually decent. You can do every raid in Kata with just raw dogging it with just DBM. But again, I would recommend getting like a raid pack WeakAuras that's just a little bit more sophisticated. For raid cooldowns, I use Method Raid Tools is nice for like the notes and stuff like that, but I don't use its raid cooldown tracker. I just like don't really like how it looks or how it works. I use Nova Raid Companion. Yeah, so this has a bunch of little cool things in it. But yeah, I use this for raid cooldowns. You can see here, I have my DR cooldowns down here, right next to my raid frame. So this is like AMZ, DSAC, AM, and Barrier. I have Innervate over here, and I have like healer mana. This just tracks the percentage mana of everybody in the raid that's marked as a healer role. And then I have like Innervate's right next. And this isn't as important now as it was in Wrath, because Innervate doesn't really do that much. And then I have like some bigger cooldowns up here. You can super easily just configure this yourself. You can go through here and like select whatever you want to have tracked. If like, for example, if you really want to track BOP for a certain fight, you can just click this and it'll get tracked, and you can choose which one you want to put it on. So again, not super important that you use like this add-on specifically. You can use any raid cooldown tracker, just have the things that are relevant to you as a healer tracked. If you find it too overwhelming to have all the information on your screen and you're not like doing raid calls, you can just not have anything, honestly, and be fine. But it's useful to have, especially if you ever want to like call anything. I called like all the raid CDs for Infest in ICC Prague, so that's why I have all that tracked there as well. So that's UI. Pretty simple. I'll have all the profiles and stuff in the description.